Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Rose Wrights and I write and narrate Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction. If you've missed the previous 13 parts, I will link them in the description box below. Without further ado, Happy With You, Chapter 14, Confess. Marinette woke up with a start and saw a mop of blonde hair in front of her face and this boy. Oh, this beautiful boy facing her, barely even a kiss away. Their bodies had become intertwined through their few hours of blissful sleep. He was still sleeping soundly, looking like an angel. She wriggled from beneath his grasp, striving not to disturb him. He looked so peaceful. When she reached to the bottom of her ladder, she sat in her desk chair, spinning in a couple of circles, feeling slightly dizzy. A confused Tiki phased through Marinette's homemade crossbody bag. "What are you doing, Marinette?" Nothing." She stopped spinning, swaying from the velocity. Tiki raised an eyebrow and crossed her tiny arms. "Okay, fine. I guess I'm just still anxious from last night, even though it was amazing." She sent herself reeling one more time in her chair. She picked up her phone to check the time. Wow, it's already nearly 10 a.m. I can't believe we slept in this late. She stopped and smirked to herself. I said we. It feels nice to wake up with him. I could get used to this. Marinette? She heard a sleepy Adrien yawn from above her. Who are you talking to? Oh, no one. Tiki flitted into her bag once more. Just myself, as usual. She tried to sound nonchalant, but she isn't a great actress. He looked over the side railing, smiling with his hair in a disarray from sleeping like a rock. Come back to bed? He phrased it as a question, but his eyes gave a subtle, pleading appearance. She snuggled in close, listening to the sounds of Adrien breathing. Marinette, mind if we talk about last night? She knew this was warranted, but for some reason still caught her off guard. They both sat up in the bed that was dressed in Marinette's favorite color, baby pink, which matched her cheeks now. Sure, she uttered. He looked down, not meeting her twinkling bluebell stare. She had a hypnotizing effect on him. So, okay, I don't know where to start, but I guess I should start off with an apology. She stared at him, a sad, questioning look in her eyes. Did he regret it? She didn't. He didn't notice the hurt in her eyes and continued. I'm afraid that I may have overstepped some boundaries. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable around me, ever. You were so... He searched for the right words. Captivating, he decided. I had to stop myself somehow before we... His face flushed with embarrassment. I wanted to, I really wanted to, but I couldn't. She smiled at this boy she loved so dearly. You have nothing to apologize for, nothing at all. Everything we did, I wanted to. I don't regret it at all. Don't beat yourself up because you did nothing wrong, okay? I love you. She took his hand and gave it a squeeze. With her free hand, she caressed his face, turning him towards her. Even with his bedhead, he was gorgeous. You do? He looked shocked and pink-faced. Of course, silly. I told you that I love you. And I meant it. I couldn't imagine being with anyone except for you. You mean everything to me. I'll always love you. For the first time, she looked away. She loved him, but saying the words made her feel embarrassed for some reason. This was Adrien Agreste. She never in a million years would have thought that he would love her. Just looking at him made her heart take flight. So taken by her response, he suddenly pulled her in for a kiss. She kissed him back, then he pulled away gently. So, what are we? We don't have to put a label on it or anything if you don't want to, but last night was intense. He had serious cotton mouth. Even though she had just given him a beautiful declaration of love, he was afraid. Afraid that she would reject him. Afraid he would say that she just got caught up in the moment and really didn't feel that way. Afraid of not being together. That's what he ultimately wanted. You're right, it was. You know I love you, Adrien. But, here it comes, one of the many things he feared. Nope, she gave him a huge grin. No but. I love you, and I want to be with you. Her face flushed red again. He sighed in relief. Oh, Marinette, you have no idea how happy I am to hear that. I love you too. So, Marinette Dupin-Chang, will you be my girlfriend? He was holding his breath while waiting for her response. He felt like he might implode from the anticipation. You aren't worried about disappointing all of the pretty girls in Paris? Adrienette, teen idol and famous model, off the market? She raised her eyebrows and nudged him playfully. Yours is the only opinion that matters to me. So, will you? What do you say? His heart was still beating like a street performer playing the bongos hoping to get a tip. She giggled. Her musical laugh calmed and warmed his heart. It would be my honor. She grabbed him by the front of his shirt and pulled him in for one last kiss. As much as I hate this, she said, breaking apart from him, you should probably get home before my parents come up here wondering who I'm talking to, or before your father and Natalie come looking for you. Good idea. I'll see you soon, my love. He blew her a kiss and quietly shimmied down the ladder to exit her house without anyone noticing. My love. It was new to her, but it felt so right. She had been in love with this boy for what felt like a lifetime. She kept pinching herself, thinking she was dreaming. They were on their way to the happily ever after she always wanted with him. Alia was going to flip out. However, there was one more person she needed to talk to. Cat Noir. Marinette transformed, wondering where to look. Cat Noir obviously knew where to find her, but she didn't know where to find him. It hardly seemed fair. She called him on her bug phone, only receiving his answering machine. It said, "Cat's got your tongue? Leave a message after the beep." She sighed. Maybe he is still a civilian, or maybe he declined her call. She would deserve it after all. Right when she was about to give up, she heard the familiar singing. Little kitty on a roof, all alone without his lady. He continued singing. She gave a heavy sigh, thankful she had found him. His back was to her. Noiselessly, she sat beside him. He stopped singing and looked down at his hands, twisting his Miraculous. This is a nervous habit she had seen several times before. Cat Noir? They both stared at each other with wide, doe-like eyes. You can go first. It's okay, Ladybug said nervously. Okay. The rest of the words came from his mouth, overflowing like a river after a storm. Ladybug, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to betray your trust. I promise it was an accident. Well, sort of. He chuckled to calm his nerves. He looked at her in his peripheral vision to gauge her emotions. She was cocking her head to the side, eyebrows raised in curiosity. A soft smile displayed on her face. He continued. Plague had mentioned that you and I were idiots, he said sheepishly. So I figured that maybe it's because I loved you and you might love me. And we couldn't tell who the other was, but he didn't tell me that Ladybug was Marinette. I figured it out myself. That's why I called civilian you Milady on your roof. I wanted to see how you'd react, and Ladybug put an arm around him and gently shushed him. Cat, it's okay. I'm sorry. I overreacted. I put us at risk in Akuma battles by being angry with you. I think I was angry at myself and took it out on you, and I shouldn't have. Can you forgive me? She flashed her bluebell eyes that he has stared at nearly every day for a year. Forgive you? There's nothing to forgive. I love you, LB. Thank you, Cat Noir, for everything. Salty tears ran down her face as she grabbed Cat Noir into a vice grip hug. Still embracing her, Cat Noir whilst stroking her hair. Any time, little bug, but I have to ask. Do you love me? She sat back to look at him. Of course I do. We're partners. She rubbed the tears out of her eyes and tried to smile. I mean, he struggled, the way I love you. The usually confident superhero wore a solemn expression on his masked face. Because he was Adrien, he already knew this answer. They were dating as civilians, but he couldn't stop himself from asking anyways. He loves Marinette, which means he loves Ladybug, except the difference is that she had no idea Adrien was behind the black mask. Oh, I did, or I thought I did, but something happened and... She trailed off, desperately not wanting to hurt him. And? He pressed her to continue. I have a boyfriend now. I love him more than anything. I'm sorry, Minu. She wasn't quite sure what she was apologizing for. For the past tension she had caused? For potentially hurting his feelings? He simply smiled and blushed, knowing that in another life, she did love him. I'm happy for you, LB. He sat back, leaning on his arms, legs swinging freely like a child sitting in a chair who can't yet touch the floor. You deserve to be happy, and if you like him, he must be just as amazing as you are. The sun had begun to set. They were silent for a few moments before she placed her head on his shoulder. Thank you, she whispered, barely audible. For what? For being the best friend and partner any bug could ever have. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing. That would help me out so much. As always, stay miraculous!